Christian for KojuPop.com, where it's time to take another look back through to the past 30 years to July of 1984. And whenever you get to July, it's always kind of, it starts slowing down releases time. It's just too hot to play video games. And I think, as we'll see here, July 1984 was no real exception. As significant early release here was Donkey Kong 3 on the Famicom. This was actually a 1983 release in arcades, and just now coming to the Famicom. And yeah, it's a weird game. It's a weird game, and not particularly very good. Of course, Donkey Kong, the original, sort of pioneer in the burgeoning platform genre, and Donkey Kong Jr., arguably a better game even than that. And Donkey Kong 3 is just weird. It's kind of, I'm not even sure who you're playing here, and I'm not gonna open up the Wikipedia page to find out. But yeah, it kind of casts you as, in the Mario role, doing gardening, I guess. You gotta protect your plants while shooting bug spray at the bugs and up Donkey Kong's rear end. It's okay, I guess, but yeah, certainly it was something that was absolutely, instantly forgotten back in the day, when compared, just because of its bizarre nature, and the fact that it's such a departure from the rest of the game. And there was this fear, I guess, Nintendo at the time and all the way through the 80s were kind of intent, I suppose, on ensuring that kind of intent on ensuring that their games, the sequels to games didn't have sort of sequel fatigue that they do now, and they would be intent on making things very drastically different. If you look at The Adventure of Link as compared to the first Zelda game, that was a similar concept, but I think really they needed to stay with what they knew, especially when compared to, when you consider how good Donkey Kong was and Donkey Kong Jr. was. But this did sort of irrevocable damage to Donkey Kong, really, until Donkey Kong 94 came out 10 years later on the Game Boy. That was when, I think opinions turned around on the Great Ape. But yeah, DK3 really not a great way to start off July 1984. Here's something just as unremarkable in terms of quality, at least, but kind of significant as a Famicom release. Nuts and Milk, mainly because I die already at this bloody thing. Mainly because of the copyright at the bottom, if you were quick enough to see that before I hit start. This was put out by Hudson, making it the first game on the Famicom from a third-party publisher. And so, that was significant. Hudson, of course, would go on to have a really good relationship with Nintendo over the years. Hudson had been formed in 10 years prior, roughly about 10 years prior, in 1973, I believe. And would gradually put out a lot of stuff on home computers at the time, and before eventually falling in with Konami, who were founded in the same year in '73. Nuts and Milk is a single screen platformer that's nothing too spectacular. You're Milk, apparently. You are Milk, and you've got 3 chances to crack a screen, eat all the fruit on the stage, so that you can open a door to your beloved milk. No, milk opening a door to milk? No. Milk opening a door to nuts. Yes, seems nuts is the girl and milk is the boy, just to, you know, toy with your preconceived notions of gender. It's alright. But yeah, wholly unremarkable, and there were tons of games like this at the time, on all sorts of formats. This wasn't something unique to Japan in any way at all. You know, and gradually the levels would increase in complexity, and you would be chased by more of these other little blobby things as you go. But obviously I'm rubbish at this game, so let's move on. Done with just nuts and milk in July of 1984, as they produced their second Famicom game in July, right at the end, on the 31st, with a port of Lode Runner to the system. Lode Runner was a 1983 Broderbund game. I'm already dead. It was a 1983 Broderbund game for the Apple II and several other systems, and it's weird. It was an American developed game, I want to say, but it would very quickly, because it was, I guess, a Famicom era game where really there were very few Famicom games in general, let alone third-party Famicom games, this was only the second. It kind of very quickly attained a cult status, and it because of the licensing rights, where it went through from here through Hudson to who did it go to? Was it Taito that it went to? I believe it was. Over the coming years, then it kind of, Lode Runner became this almost unofficially Japanese video game, where people kind of think that it was Japanese, or think that it is Japanese when its roots are Western, and it's the same with Spelunker as well, which has a hugely fondly remembered cult status in Japan and Japan only, which kind of leads a lot of people into thinking that Spelunker was a Japanese game when it isn't, and then Spelunky, of course, isn't a Japanese game, but kind of has a lot of Japanese sensibilities. So this, as a port of Lode Runner, fairly different to the Apple II version, much more zoomed in graphically, which means you can only see a little bit of the map, which is annoying, as you can see here, because it's important to know where the baddies are on the screen at any one time. You've got to run around the level. You've only got one button that does stuff, which is that, which I just did, which digs a hole anywhere in the environment, and you kind of want to trap the guys in the hole and then run on their heads to kill them, but evidently I'm not good enough to do that at all. This came with a level editor as well, if you wanted to create your own maps that would be lost as soon as you turn the power off, because this was in the days before battery backup bub, and also before the Famicom disk system came out, so there was none of that really. And yeah, a fairly vanilla port, but not as good as the Apple II version port of Lode Runner here, a game that was just starting this huge legacy in Japan, where, yeah, as I said, one of the most fondly remembered video games to come out of the country, or franchises to come out of the country, if you ask a lot of Japanese gamers, but at the same time not a Japanese game. I'm dead here. Yep. Okay, next. Well, maybe apart from Lode Runner was fun, but there's not much else this month that is actually fondly regarded 30 years on. Except for this one. This is Lords of Midnight, which came out on Spectrums in July of 1984. And this was put out by Mike Singleton, and it's a sort of a turn-based RPG, but a strategy RPG of sorts. The idea is you're controlling different heroes or different members of a troop, of a kind of army, and I'm only vaguely personally familiar with Lords of Midnight, so excuse my lack of knowledge, but yeah, in a sort of very Middle Earth inspired world where you're supposed to do battle against a warring do-badder and reunite two halves of a kingdom. You're sort of in control of how many guys here? 1, 2, 3, 4 guys. At the start, at least, and they each have their own army, and so they're each equipped to do battle, and it's in a day and night cycle. So during the day, you move your guys, and you can look at things by pressing E, and you get a little bit of a description. You can think, having a thinking. This thinking move here that gives you some sort of insight on your character and your status. So having a moon ring helps, and then Luxor the Moon Prince has got a moon ring. He doesn't have anything else, so let's get moving. And then you come across some people here, which is not ideal, especially if you don't have an army in charge. Let's have a think about that. So you kind of have to move, you move everybody with a certain amount of time or what have you. And I can just move past. Never mind. Oh, okay. So should I hide, or should I fight the ice trolls? I think, given that I'm just one guy, I'm gonna probably hide. Ice trolls are abroad, and you must fight or hide. Oh dear. Less than 2 hours of the day remain, and Luxor is utterly invigorated. Wonderful. The ice fear is very mild. Mild ice fear. So yeah, clearly a lot of these sort of strapped into a text parser, random words. It's like sort of Mad Libs in terms of this sort of procedural generation of the script here. So I mean, it's reasonably, it seems now fairly straightforward, but I mean, in a way, it's very ambitious in terms of there's diplomacy to consider, with certain creatures. You can fight and hide, and it's a turn-based adventure game on quite a massive map. But yeah, it doesn't give you any of this. You have to hunt out on your own. I've had to look up the keyboard shortcuts as it is already before having to. Oh no, I don't want Luxor the Moon Prince. I want to skip to somebody else. Let's skip over to Morkin. Let's see how Morkin's doing. Let's get him moving about. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do. Well, kind of, I guess. I mean, the fighting's reasonably simple. It is just purely you choose an action, you have some dice rolls, and then it tells you what the result is. But yeah, at the time, this was a grand, ambitious, and kind of an open world. You're free to do what you want. There's branching paths. You create your own stories, and that's pretty cool. I slew the wolves. Slayed the wolves. Think again. And yeah, you go through, you move everybody about, and then once you're ready, you kind of choose to go to bed, sort of thing, and then everybody else moves. So let's move about a little bit. Oh, horses. No, I'm still looking east, and stand on the plain of bloods, looking east to a keep in the domain of blood. Oh yeah. Let's head towards there. Oh, it's getting to be night time. Oh. Let's see. Rotherham the Wise. Northeast. I'm just sending everybody out in different directions. Obviously, we're not going to have the time to do much else. And yeah, let's see here. Let's keep going. It is now night time. Okay. And yeah, let's update on everybody. Oh no, hang on. Yeah, you want to hit you, and then it'll go nighttime. Is that even? It's kind of weird. The Fowler abroad. It's kind of bizarre. Sort of semi-oldie English, but yeah. Yeah, a lot of people kind of have a lot of love for it, and this was rejiggered. There was a project around the 30th anniversary of the game to bring this to modern devices, and then that kind of, I think it slipped a little bit, but eventually a version of the game came out on iOS and Android, which you can get right now, and I suggest you do, because it's, you know, it's an interesting game. You know, from there, it also came to PC as well. So, you know, I think wherever you are, you can get it on GOG, and you can get it on your Google Plays and your Apple, your app stores and what have you. And it's worth checking out just to see, you know, what sort of the you know, you can see a lot of something like Skyrim in a game like this. Sadly, of course, Mike Singleton passed away just back in 2012 after the, you know, Lords of Midnight was supposed to be part of a trilogy which was never actually finished. There was a sequel called Doomdark's Revenge, and then the third game in the series never made it out. And Singleton went on and did a lot of work around the industry for several years since, and you know, his last credit was on Race Driver, I think, Grid, the first Grid game he worked on before, you know, sadly sort of passing away before his time. But yeah, it's certainly held in high regard as Lords of Midnight, and it's a reasonably simple strategy RPG, but it's something it's easy to see why a lot of people were invested in it, I think. I've wasted my time here, never mind. So yeah, that's July 1984, and that's this month in video gaming history in video form. For a full written guide to what was happening in July 1984, 94 and 2004, head on over to kaijupop.com. Thanks for watching, bye.